Hey folks, what I'd like to do today is answer some questions, some frequently asked questions about the MMASI 10 series online course. So I've been getting a lot of emails and questions, and what I thought would be a good idea would be to answer some of these questions so that I can answer them to as many people as possible, assuming for the one or two people that have a particular question, there may be a dozen of you out there that are actually thinking about the question. So what I'm talking about here is the Morales Method Academy of Structural Integration, and what we're offering is an online course that shows you the 10 session series as is laid out by the Morales Method, as I would do it. So what we end up doing then is showing you in the online course exactly how I would take someone through a 10 session series. So what you actually get to see is me working on someone, doing gait analysis, working on someone, but I also talk about exactly what I do and why I do it. So that's really important. This is one of the first online courses out there that actually not just shows you what is being done, but also why I'm doing it. So I talk about the principles of structural integration, I talk about my method and the method behind the madness. So back to the frequently asked questions. So what I'd like to do is actually read some of this some of these questions that I've been sent and answer them, and we go from there. All right, and I'm going to go as quickly as possible here. So they're saying they love the post about offering the 10 session series online. This person is in chiropractic school, but also has been drawn to structural integration, and they said they've always been feeling the call to it. So they were asking, how in depth do you go? Like not just physically laying out the series, but encompassing the whole 10 session series. Sounds like the person is also looking for some refinement or some guidance. So if they needed any guidance or had any questions, could they call me or contact me if so. So I went back and answered this question, and I said, great to hear from you. And like I mentioned to you, we go into a lot of the detail. And like I just told you, I walk the viewer through the 10 session series. I have the model walk up and down. I talk about what I see, and then I talk about how I would go through the series. So even though there's a certain protocol to the series, every particular person gets their own unique custom first session, for example. There's a lot of territory in any session, so I really need to pick and choose where exactly I would go. So I talk about why I would do that in the online course. So I say, the viewer sees the model walking, also not just in the beginning and in the end, but halfway through. It's really important for me to show the viewer not just before and after, but during, because it's important to understand that things may change during a session. I may actually change my strategy just slightly based on what I see if I have the model walk halfway through. Another question that some potential viewers have asked is, are there any books that I would recommend? And they mentioned some books by name. I won't go into these actual books, but some books that kind of dive a little bit into the structural integration world. And they, like I said, they mentioned some books by name, and this potential viewer asked, should I get these books to prepare myself for watching the online course? And my answer is, although those books are really cool and have some really cool, interesting information, they really don't cover structural integration the way that we do it. And in fact, if you decide to hop on one train, then you really should be aware that that's their interpretation of structural integration, that's their interpretation of working tissue, and it may be different from the classic way as taught by Ida Rolf, and also my interpretation of Ida Rolf's work. So I don't really recommend any book other than some of the classic books by Ida Rolf, just so you see her development of structural integration, and then of course my book, so you actually get to see how I interpreted structural integration and how I lay it out. Another question that was asked by a viewer, and I'm just going to read this here. Hey, I have a question about the video. Is there space and invitation for other systems or techniques to come in, like craniosacral work or energy work? And you know, they talk about how other programs kind of narrow the perspective and don't really include other potential modalities. And my response to that is there is great opportunity to bring in other modalities, and it's definitely more possible when a modality is more technique oriented, or when it's not a full system. So for example, trigger point therapy, or for example, craniosacral therapy can be distilled to their techniques, and in that sense those techniques can then be integrated and brought in, incorporated into structural integration. And the reason that's possible is because structural integration is not a collection of techniques. I think one way to ruffle a Rolfer's feathers is to tell them, oh, I heard about, or I learned about these Rolfing techniques. Well, structural integration is not technique driven. It's more philosophy driven, protocol driven. So that being said, a philosophy can encompass techniques. Techniques, once they develop a philosophy, becomes a little more holistic, becomes a bigger system. So structural integration can take from what is needed, from what is necessary, like trigger point therapy, like deep tissue, like craniosacral therapy, and bring it in, use the philosophy of SI to meet the particular goals. So in that case, it is inclusive. Another question that I received from a potential viewer is, will I just be dealing with fascia, with the fascial system in this 10-session series? And this is where I start to deviate a little bit from some of the classic structural integration practitioners. In the Morales Method, Academy of Structural Integration, we do not just look at the fascial system. One of the big reasons is because a lot of the research is pointing to our work not being just about fascia. It's very difficult to, if not impossible, to just affect and manually work fascia. So in the Morales Method Academy of Structural Integration, we understand that it's not just a fascial system, it is a whole system. When my knuckles, elbow, or soft fist is on someone's hamstring or quads, I'm affecting skin, adipose tissue, yes, the collagen fibers of fascial tissue, yes, the muscle fibers, and also nerve, blood, bone. It's all of it that's under and getting exposed to the mechanical pressure of my tool, the soft fist, knuckles, or elbows. So because of that, I cannot just say that I'm working fascia. So in this sense, we are definitely diverging and moving away from the pool that thinks it's just the fascial system that's being worked on. So we get into that a lot more in the theory of structural integration. We talk about how it is that we're working, how it is that we're becoming effective in this work. So that's something that I really wanted to make clear. So another question answered. Thanks a lot, folks, for watching. Thanks a lot for sitting through. If you'd like to know more, These videos are on Instagram. You can click on the link in the bio. These videos are also on YouTube, so you can go to links in the description, read about the offerings for our online courses, and if you have any questions, you can also contact me. The email is coming up on the screen. Again, thanks again for watching, and hope to see you in future classes.